When I went to Carowinds for the very first time this past summer, I could definitely tell that Cedar Fair was putting a lot of money into this park. And keep in mind, I had never been to Carowinds before 2022, so I had no idea what the park looked like before, but I could just tell walking around that Cedar Fair really loved this park. I kind of got the same feeling going to Cedar Point for the first time in 2021. Cedar Point is Cedar Fair's favorite child, and for good reason. It was the founding park in the chain, and it was and still remains a destination park. So now that I've been to both Cedar Point and Carowinds, I was comparing the two parks, and the more I did that, the more this thought came to my head. With all this big investment going into Carowinds, is it possible that Cedar Fair is considering making Carowinds their new flagship park? Or, to put it another way, is Carowinds the next Cedar Point? And the more I thought about that, I thought this would be a great topic for a video. So, you're watching it right now. Is Carowinds the next Cedar Point? Voted by you guys. This was the winner of the last poll, and if you didn't get a chance to vote in that poll, make sure you're subscribed. That way any future polls will show up right in your mobile activity feed. Now back to the video. Okay, I first want to explain why Carowinds has been growing so rapidly these last few years, and also give a few points on what Carowinds has that Cedar Point does not have. The first one is land. Cedar Point is literally a peninsula on Lake Erie, which means they are 100% landlocked. According to a 2016 report, Cedar Point has developed 82% of their land, and I imagine this number has grown a little bit since then. Meanwhile, Carowinds has it a little bit better. In the same 2016 report, Carowinds had developed 75% of their land. So the difference between Cedar Point and Carowinds land development isn't that big, but still, plain and simple, Carowinds has more room to expand than Cedar Point. And at Carowinds, there's a few roller coasters that I would love to see torn down, like Hurler for example, as opposed to Cedar Point, where I really don't want any roller coaster here to be torn down because I pretty much enjoy all the roller coasters here. Well, except for Corkscrew, but anyways, you get my point. The next one isn't really a big deal, but I personally still find it kind of interesting. Cedar Fair has slowly but surely been moving their corporate headquarters from Sandusky to Charlotte. Again, at a glance, not really a big deal because they haven't really made the full move yet, but I still find it kind of interesting. And I do think this could mean that Carowinds has a very bright future ahead of it. I mean, why else would Cedar Fair move their headquarters from Cedar Point, their founding park, all the way to Carowinds? Maybe the Cedar Fair executives like Fury 325 more than Millennium Force, I don't know. I don't think Cedar Fair will fully move their headquarters to Charlotte, but it's still something to keep your eye on. My next point is a combination of a few things. We all know that Carowinds has grown quite a bit the last decade, and that's because Charlotte as a city has been growing a lot in the past decade as well. Charlotte is one of the fastest growing cities in the US, and for Cedar Fair, a growing population means more potential customers, more season pass sales, and potentially some more employees. That right there is a good reason as to why Cedar Fair has been investing in Carowinds so much. But at the same time, there are other cities with Cedar Fair parks who have also experienced a population growth, and Carowinds gets less attendance than Cedar Point, Canada's Wonderland, and Knott's Berry Farm. So why does Cedar Fair pick Carowinds for big investments now? Well, two words: tax incentives. In 2013, Cedar Fair secured over $900,000 in tax incentives for Carowinds over a 3-year period. This definitely helped out with the park's remodeled front entrance and also Fury 325. The city of Charlotte clearly likes what Cedar Fair is doing with Carowinds. That's because Charlotte is trying to grow their tourism market. Okay, so those are the reasons why Cedar Fair is investing in Carowinds so much. And and also what Carowinds has, what Cedar Point doesn't have. Now it's time to look at what Cedar Point has that Carowinds doesn't. Carowinds is a great park, but Cedar Point, in my opinion, is still better, and there are some things Carowinds needs to do in order to become Cedar Point, so let's talk about those right now.
So, roller coasters are the bread and butter of Cedar Point, without a doubt. And even though Carowinds does have a pretty big roller coaster collection, they have a few bad or not so good roller coasters. So that's what Carowinds needs to do. Get rid of their bad roller coasters. I'm talking about Hurler, Nighthawk, Kitty Hawk, Vortex, and even Flying Cobras. Now, I do know that some roller coaster enthusiasts want to see Hurler be RMC'd, but you guys, we already have RMC Hurler at King's Dominion. I think it'll be better just to tear down Hurler at Carowinds, and in its place, build a ground-up GCI wooden coaster. Carowinds is missing a good wooden coaster, so a GCI would be perfect for this park. Okay, hold up one sec. I don't want to spoil the If I Owned episode of Carowinds, so I'm going to keep this part very vague. But anyways, Carowinds could use like some sort of B&M, either a B&M Dive or a B&M Wing. I also want to see like an extreme launch coaster at this park, something like an S&S Air Launch. I mean, Copperhead Strike does have a launch, but it's a pretty weak launch, so I think Carowinds could use a punchy launch coaster. In my opinion, they also need some more thrilling flat rides, and especially, they need a water ride. There is no water rides at Carowinds. If you want to get wet at Carowinds, you have to go to the water park. There's no log flume, no rapids ride, just completely dry park. They also kind of need some more restaurants. I mean, they do have some good restaurants, but I'm talking restaurants on par with Cedar Point's restaurants. I haven't really tried a lot of the food at Carowinds, so I can't really say if it's good or not, but I'm just saying some more restaurants could be beneficial. Let's not forget about operations. Cedar Point is famous for safe, friendly, and efficient operations. At Carowinds, it's a bit hit or miss. Intimidator and Copperhead Strike had great operations, and the Fury 325 crew was stellar. But the rest of the roller coasters were just average, or definitely weren't the best. I'm not saying the ride operators at Carowinds are bad people, they're actually very friendly. So if they can just be a little bit more efficient across most, or even all of their roller coasters, that will go a long way.
Okay, so if Carowinds does those things, they can become Cedar Fair's new flagship park. I really do believe that. However, they won't become exactly like Cedar Point, and let me explain. Cedar Point has one thing that Carowinds will never have, and that is Cedar Point's very rich history. Carowinds also has a really cool history, but Cedar Point is just a whole nother level. Like, it's the second oldest park in the country. There's just so much history at Cedar Point that makes Cedar Point Cedar Point. There's also atmosphere. Just being at Cedar Point, a park with so much history of breaking roller coaster records and all these world-class thrills, there's nothing quite like it. No, Carowinds won't become Cedar Point. However, I do think it's possible for Carowinds to become Cedar Fair's new flagship park, or at the very least, Cedar Fair's #2, right on par with Kings Island. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it would be great if you could leave a like, and if you have any opinions or thoughts on this video, please comment down below. Also, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe. Seriously, that helps out a lot, and I appreciate all the wonderful support this channel has been getting these last few years. With that said, guys, take it easy, and have a great day.